So Dan Murrell does not like Scargiver, and I do not like him. I'm just kidding. I do like Dan. For the most part, I agree with him, but boy, he was resoundingly wrong. And not just, oh, no, he got the facts wrong. So he pretended to use Star Wars as the model of what Snyder should have followed with Scargiver. I'm going to minimize the spoilers, so we're not going to go into Scargiver too much. Just broadly, it is another space opera epic with Snyder doing a lot of Star Wars stuff, and Dan did not like it. But the reasons he didn't like it was because it wasn't like Star Wars. Because, Star Wars, they did it the right way when doing a franchise.
Star Wars didn't end with the promise that the real fight against the Empire was coming up in the sequel. It was a movie that people loved. George Lucas and the studio saw that people loved it, and then they built out a world based on the audience's love for that and the blueprint that they'd put down for the first movie.
Story, and he's getting frustrated. Well, you know what he did with Rebel Moon? He called it Part 1. Rebel Moon Part 2? It's Part 2. So he's telling you there's a larger story. But apparently Dan Murrell is not interested, which is fine. But the idea that this is breaking from Star Wars does not make any sense. You're getting things completely wrong with how Lucas created Star Wars. You're just factually incorrect.
Star Wars as if it was the inevitable first chapter and leave pieces out that would only make sense if he got to make the whole trilogy. He said, I'm going to make the best movie that I can make right now, and if it does...
What really happened is the original script that Lucas made, which he did not follow, he changed it a lot, was too big, it was too massive, so he cut it. So he took a big portion of the first script that is Star Wars. And it wasn't called Star Wars, it was called The Star Wars. So the actual name is The Star Wars. The Star Wars was just the first of two stories. He didn't think it was going to succeed, but he was hoping he was going to make enough money to finish the story with a second film and then stop. Did he have more ideas? Sure. But again, the plan was really two films, not a trilogy, not waiting, quote, to make a franchise. It was an artistic set of films, but then they started making money and Lucas changed his mind. And Dan even gets that wrong. Like, they didn't really plan with things after the trilogy.
As well, then I get to make more. That's how it should work. I guess that Rebel Moon Part 2 is...
That's wrong again. Lucas did plan many films in the future, in the past. He kept changing his mind. He confirmed early on they were going to make 6 films. Then it became 9 films. Then it became 12 films. He's always changed his mind. But it was not meant to be like, these are the 3 films, it's over. That is not what happened. Yes, technically the first film is a complete story. Maybe it would have been better if they stopped there, but they didn't. They made it more and more commercial. Just got to read the real history of Star Wars, and Dan Murrell does not know it. He clearly does not know what he's talking about, but he's a good reviewer, but really when he tries to play film historian, he's a complete failure.